And I am the project lead for Azorus, the UTXO blockchain intelligence platform. So, what does it even mean, and what problems are we attempting to solve? If you think about investors, Web3 businesses, NFTs, right, project leads, they're all going to have individual questions that they care about the blockchain and whether it's at a 10,000 foot ecosystem level or at a lower project-based granularity. So these questions, they all seek to answer different questions, whether it's potential investment opportunities, market gaps, how to better engage with their community, or even identify any obvious or not so obvious shortcomings about a particular project or blockchain or dApp or anything like that. So thanks to public ledger technology, though, all of that is available for the world to see. It's just a matter of accessing and harnessing that data. Luckily, we do have a few options currently today, right? You have individual explorers, usually built by the core development teams of a given blockchain. You have community developers or developers just in general, right? They're the ones building tools and websites to actually see all of this data, which is cool. Or you have people who know how to run their own individual environments to answer those questions, right? Individual environment meaning like understanding like how to spin up a node, running an Explorer instance, all that stuff. And they all work perfectly to achieve their intended objectives. But you know, there's always room to grow. For example, what if you want to see different charting options? Instead of a pie chart, you wanted to see a column chart. Instead of a line chart, you want to see a scatter plot. What if you're curious about a specific project only, right? These options aren't available at the moment, easily at least. What if you want to combine charts with different data sources? How long will you have to wait to get that answer because you're still waiting for the these website owners to actually get that data and update the site? So that takes some time. But I think more importantly, when we think about like the layman or the laywoman in the Web3 space, just getting started to level that playing field, since they already have a competitive disadvantage from others who have more resources, right? How do we get them competing in the same race? And so what if they don't have the hardware capabilities or the software knowledge to get something like this up and running on their own computer? And so I think this is where Azores comes in, right? We aim to become the UTXO intelligence platform for blockchain analysts, data scientists, machine learning experts in the Web3 space. Customers on the platform will be able to access all blockchain and Web3 dApp data. They'll have the versatility to parse on-chain information as they see fit, the flexibility to compare data across macro and micro factors, but also the ability to customize, visualize, and share their analyses all within their web browser. And so I think this is really powerful. In my mind, at least, it reduces a lot of the technical barriers required to get up and running and places it all within the web browser, as long as the user has a stable internet connection. So, since this is an alpha demo, right, I think it's worth mentioning that there are two things to know about when it comes to, you know, about the platform. The first one is you need to get the data. Currently, we don't have a WYSIWYG option where you can like, drag and drop things. So getting the data will require a little bit of coding knowledge called SQL, which is a structured query language. It is used by a lot of companies for databases and stuff like that. And explorers, on the back end at least, they run on something called a Postgres database. So that is required. The part that's not required, where I think we've been able to deploy on the platform at the moment, is the data visualization option. So that is dragging and dropping, clicking and dragging, right? And hopefully in this demo we'll be able to show you what that looks like. So with that said, let's hop into the platform real quick, right? So there are 3 page types. There is the SQL editor, there is the chart builder, and then there's also the dash builder, short for dashboard builder. Still thinking of branding names, so if you have something better, then feel free to let me know. Either in the comments, Twitter, Discord, wherever. You all know where to find me. So here's the core page, right? Pretty straightforward. If you're familiar with SQL, you have your code editor. So we can do something like making sure that the info, making sure that our database is up to date. So currently the block height for Ergo at least is 863,533. The cool thing about this is you can quickly see what data is available. You have some previews, right? So you can understand the different data, the tables within a given database, and it gives you quick previews without actually querying the data. So it's pretty easy. So if you need to build your query, it'll be pretty straightforward. So I think here we can go into a quick use case, right? So I have a really good champion in the space, no pun intended. His name is Mark, and he is running the Ergo Champions NFT project. And so what if we want to do, and something that he often does is he likes to take project snapshots to figure out who's holding a Ergo champion, and then from there he would airdrop some cool stuff for them. So definitely give them a check them out. So what we would do is, I have a super secret query, and you would just pop this in here, right? And what it essentially does is it just says, find all the users who are holding a Ergo champion, and then give me an address for me to airdrop them to. And the cool part is, since we understand how Sky Harbor's registers work, we can also say, well, if you're listed on Sky Harbor, you don't need to delist it because we can easily look that up. So with a simple click right of the button, we now have our results. So for Ergo Champions, 413 addresses for him to airdrop to, which is pretty cool. Looks like interesting. What's that in there? Might have to debug that a little bit later. Dumb beans. So there's that, right? And that's just getting the data. What if you wanted to see something like, well, who is the one holding all of who's the whale? Which address is like the whale? So if you know SQL, you can easily do like a select count group by address, right? But maybe you don't know how to do that. Maybe all you have is this data source that someone shared somewhere else, and then you are a user, you just want to see a visualization of it. So we can just quickly create chart. So Ergo Champions, demo, save. All data sets, we default to a table format, but what we can easily do is just pop them into a column chart. Bar chart, maybe bar chart is the one that we want. Pop into bar chart. We care about the count of the airdrop addresses, so we'll do a count. And then the dimensions here in this case would be the airdrop address. So once we hit update chart, bada bing bada boom, that will tell us exactly that this particular address, 9INY, has a total of 64 Ergo champions. And then we can customize it a little bit more. So we can go here, we can add bar values so you can see the actual amount rather than hovering over it if you didn't want to. And then let's say we can do 0 to 70, for example. So there's a bit of a top end portion of it. So it's pretty cool. So what we did so far is we grabbed some on-chain data, and we were able to quickly understand what was going on behind the scenes, but we also could visualize it as well. So that's one example. A second use case could be, second use case is following the original principles of cryptocurrency, and one of them being don't trust but verify. So let's say, for example, there's a project out there I'm going to call on ErgoPad, right? And then people ask them, well, what's your richness look like? What's the distribution of your wallets and stuff like that? They have a website on here, and it tells you the number of stakers for ErgoPad, the token staked, current APY, right? But how do we know this is even true? Token staked is 137 million. They could just pull it out of anywhere, right? Just put it on the web UI and say that's the case. So we also want to follow the core ethos of don't trust then verify. So if I just pop this query on the slide here that I have here, so what this does is it just thank you to Marnie who helped classify all of these addresses a while ago, right? But we go on, we take the data on chain, We parse it and we say for a given address, if it's this one, well, then we call it that. If it's this one, then we call it that. So if we run it, that should give us our results. And so we are expecting the one that says the amount that's still staked, the staking contract of 3 years should still be 139 million and some change. And so amount staked is right here. Oh, sorry, amount, yeah, not staking contract. The amount staked is 137 million. So that's pretty close to what we have there, right? And then we can go through and see and classify each of those. So in the future, right, if another project, they have their own dashboard for you to check out, yeah, this is totally an option. But if we don't want to trust them, right, which we do for the most part, but if we don't trust, we want to verify, we can go on chain and figure out all of this information. And then we can go deeper, right? So that's just getting the data. I gave 2 results of getting the data, but there's a really powerful aspect of it is being able to create flexible dashboards for this on our platform. And so here's one more example. Let's say the Nervos network. Let's say I want to do some cool stuff on Nervos network, right? Oops, let me just change this real quick. I want to do some cool stuff on the Nervos network by looking at the whales versus transactions count, for example, just to see if there's any type of relationship. And if there's a relationship, then I can change my trading algorithms to respond if the whale, if there's more than 1 million plankton, for example. I don't know, just giving a random example. So that gives us our results. So what this says is, I don't have the address here, but what it says is for this address, it has 2 transactions and a total of 98 CKB. Here, this one is 249, a total balance of 74,000 CKB. So it's considered a shrimp based on the current value of CKB, and we classify it as a high transaction address, for example. And so earlier I showed the different charts, right? And that's a single chart. But the power of this comes when you have lots of charts and then you create dashboards from those charts. And I can just pull this one up really quick, right? And so here's a good example of a dashboard that I pre-built. So we're looking at only Nervos CKB, right? Nervos network. We have distribution of the supply based on the address segment. If they're octopus, starfish, whale, right? Let's just refresh dashboard. It's not going to be the same because I limited the query at 10,000 or so. So that's why it's always going to change if I'm not looking at the entire history of the blockchain. And so in this case, we see the distribution of addresses. You can see if we wanted to compare the transaction frequency of the different cohorts, we can see if there's a correlation between transaction count and balance. So in this case, it's saying the planktons, any addresses with $100 or less, have the most transaction counts, for example. Is there a statistical model that the data scientist can build on top of this, right? Or the user. And so we have tree maps and everything. Maybe we don't like this, right? Maybe we copied this from someone else and we wanted to change things up, and then so we can say this is not so secret anymore, right? And we save that. That's good to go. Then maybe we want to change some of the elements. This is not as fun as well, so then we would want to add a new row in between and be like, I really like the scatter plot. Let me just add it to. Let me just add it to this one right here. Let me just expand that one's width, right? Here's empty row, let me take it out. And then let me add some text here. So, oops, and then here is my analysis, yada, yada. And then save. And then maybe I don't like that because that's not as cool, right? Because it's taking up too much real estate. And then I can perhaps say, drag this one down here, for example, and then spread it out a little bit more. Save. And you can share your dashboard right there for the world to see. pretty interactive, you know. So far, we are pretty excited about it. Yeah. So, that was a lot. So what's next, right? We have a lot of things coming down the pipeline. So within the next month or two, at least before the end of the year, we want to resolve any of the mission critical bugs that we are experiencing, fix up the user experience, and start inviting people onto the platform to start bug stopping, right? So that way, by next year, we can at least have an open beta and begin merging this raw, you know, unpolished front end with our pretty awesome back end, and which I think will provide a better user experience in the long run. And so then we'll talk about IDOs in future as well as MVP launch, and of course what everyone's asking for is a dark mode. Cool. So that wraps it up, and as always, thank you for watching. You can find us on Discord, Twitter, as well as Telegram. All right, thanks again, and I will see you all around.